If you're new to ChatGPT, then you're in the right place. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to get started with ChatGPT, and I'm going to talk you through all the different features that are available to you in ChatGPT. And if after watching this video, you want to continue to learn with me, then you can check out my online course and community, which I've linked in the video description. So how do you get started? Just go to the ChatGPT website. You can Google it, or you can go directly to this URL. And that's the interface that you can see once you've created an account. There's a free version and a paid version, but everything I'm talking about in this video is available to free users as of November 2025. If you need additional features further down the line, then you can always pay for the paid version, but you don't have to. So you've got your interface here, you've got your prompt box in the middle of the screen, which is where you will be entering your prompts. And prompts are basically questions or requests that you have for ChatGPT. So we're going to try this with a very basic question, which is, how do I adjust the height of my bike saddle? So let's see what happens. It comes up with a response, and it's basically given me some ideas about what I'll need, and it's given me a step-by-step process for adjusting my saddle. So I can continue this conversation in the same chat. I can ask it further questions down here in the box. For example, if I need more details, if I need it explained in more simple language, and so on. And also at the end of the response, there are some buttons here. So for example, the first one is a copy button, which means you can copy this response. For example, if you want to work on this content outside of ChatGPT, like in a Word doc, say if you're writing a blog post about how to adjust bike saddles, you can copy that over and work on it directly in a Google Doc. You can give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, which basically teaches ChatGPT what kind of responses you like or don't like. You can share it with other people, so you can click this little icon here and copy the link. If you want to send it to somebody, they will then be able to open that content and read it. And you can use the try again button, which basically allows you to very quickly expand the response, make it more concise, and so on. But you can also refine those instructions in the prompt box down here to specify what exactly you want it to do differently. So there's also these three little dots, and I'm going to cover that in a minute. But first, I'm going to talk about prompts. So like I mentioned before, the prompt that I've just used was very simple, but your prompts can and often should be a lot more complex. So the more information you give ChatGPT, the more context you provide, the better the responses will be. So you can mention things like the reason why you need this information, some information about the audience, the style, the tone that you're looking for. And I also talk about prompting in a lot more detail, and I give you some very practical strategies in my online course, which I've also linked in the video description. So make sure you check that out as well. So let's go back to the little icons at the end of your response. So when you click on these three little dots, you can see branch in new chat. And let's talk about that for a minute. So I'm going to start a new chat, and let's imagine I'm working on a marketing campaign for leather laptop sleeves. And I'm going to try and create some LinkedIn posts to talk about the sleeves durability. So I'm going to say create a series of 3 LinkedIn posts to focus on the sleeves durability, emphasize value for money, include a short story in each post, and write it in a fairly informal tone. And I'm going to continue to work on this. I can add some additional prompts or refine the content. But once I've finished, I might actually want to experiment with refining this content so that I can serve it to 2 separate audiences. So my first audience are people over 60, and my second audience are Gen Z customers. And I may choose to do this in the same chat and basically ask ChatGPT to create 2 different versions of the campaign. But sometimes this can get quite messy. So what you can do is you can basically click these 3 dots, branch in new chat, and that will create a copy of the chat in a separate tab. So now I've got 2 tabs and with the same chat, and I can explore the same conversation in 2 different directions, so I can work on refining the campaign for a 60+ audience and for a Gen Z audience without them getting mixed up and also without losing the progress that I've made so far in the original chat. And I've got a separate step-by-step video about how to use branches, so make sure you check that out as well. Another thing you can do in ChatGPT is you can upload your own files and documents into it. So obviously you need to be confident that you're happy with what you're uploading to be out there, but once you're happy, you can click the plus button, add photos and files, and upload things like Word documents, PDF files, or images. So let me give you an example. I'm basically going to upload a Word document with a style guide into ChatGPT, and then I'm going to add the following prompt. I want to write a blog post with tips on strength training for beginners, and I want it to refer to the style guide. So basically when I run this query, it will be able to read the content of the document to follow the style guide and actually write a piece of content based on that style guide. Here's another example. I've uploaded a PDF file with a quarterly report, and I'm going to ask ChatGPT to write up 3 unique interpretations of this report. So again, ChatGPT will be able to read the content of the document and create the content based on that. You can also upload images into ChatGPT if you've got any questions about them. So this can be useful, for example, if there is a picture of a graph that you don't understand, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So I just clicked the plus button again, and I clicked add photos and files. Now the picture is there, and I'm going to ask ChatGPT a question about this picture. So summarize this graph in 3 bullet points. And basically it will read the content of the image before it produces the response. So ChatGPT can of course create written content, but it can also create images, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So you just explain the type of image that you're looking for. So one thing you can do is click on the plus button, and you can click create image and then choose a style. It's got certain styles available to you, or you can just describe the kind of style that you're looking for. So I'm actually just going to say create a black and white photograph of smartly dressed people queuing up to go into a cinema in New York City in 1950s. So let's see what it comes up with. And here's the image. I've also got a separate video that talks about the 8 components of a perfect image prompt. So make sure you check that out as well. I've linked it in the video description. So the next thing I want to talk about is the web search feature. So as you may know, ChatGPT was trained on large amounts of data, but often there's a cutoff point, which is in the past. So if you want to ask it about something that's more recent, what's useful to do is click on this plus button, go to more, web search, and then you're basically giving it access to the internet rather than just having access to its training data. So I'm going to add a query that says search for the most recent Marvel movie releases in 2025 and what critics are saying about them. So it's now basically searching the web. And what this is useful for is that it will give me some links and some sources and some citations. So it's particularly useful if you want to double check with the source or if you're looking for particular quotes that you can use in your content. The next thing you've got access to in ChatGPT is the deep research functionality. And it's something that's particularly useful if you need to synthesize some complex information or produce content on a very complex topic. So let me give you an example. Conduct deep research on the electric vehicle industry, including major players, 2025 growth forecasts, supply chain issues, and regional trends. So ChatGPT will help you gather and organize data from multiple dimensions and really understand the big picture. The next thing are ChatGPT projects. So of course you can start multiple chats, and every time you need something from ChatGPT, you can start a new conversation, but you can also use projects to help you organize your work better. So in the sidebar, you can see the projects menu. You can click on that and create a new project. You can then add various files, pictures, and information to this project if they relate to the same theme or a particular piece of work. And basically, every chat that you start inside this project will be able to refer to everything that's been added to that project rather than referencing things from across ChatGPT. I've got a separate step-by-step tutorial on that, and I've linked it in the video description as well, so make sure you check it out. There are also custom GPTs, which are a bit like personal assistants who have been trained in a particular topic. So you can have a customer service assistant, or you can have an assistant who helps you with language learning. So what you can do is you can go to the GPTs section in the sidebar and click Explore. And then once you're there, you can either browse through the existing GPTs that other people have created, or you can click the Create button and create your own GPT. And again, I've got a separate video in which I explain in detail how to create a custom GPT, so make sure you check it out. And the final thing I want to mention is that you've got voice mode and dictation available in ChatGPT. So you can just click Dictate or Voice mode and dictate things to ChatGPT instead of typing it. So that might be convenient for some users. And if you want to continue to learn with me about generative AI in a more structured way, then make sure you check out my course and community, which I've linked in the video description. And I'll see you next time. Bye.